And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Wednesday mornings, flying weather graphics showing solid IFR, Bering Sea, the Aleutians, into the western Alaska Peninsula, right on up across the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, Seward Peninsula, into the Chukchi Sea, and along the Arctic coast, with spotty areas of IFR over the central and eastern part of the state here, with some scattered areas of VFR as well, right on down to the North Gulf Coast. The Panhandle, though, mostly VFR. And for the afternoon, southeast coast looking good. VFR holding there. Marginal for the North Gulf Coast. VFR here from the Kuskokwim Delta northeastward, right up into the eastern interior to the south. Mostly marginal with some lingering IFR there along the south coast of the Kenai Peninsula up into western Prince William Sound, as well as the Barren Islands and Kamishak Bay, and then down the east side of Kodiak. Improving out to the west considerably from all the IFR, just a few areas now. Next system pushing some IFR in toward Chimney-Attu. There's some IFR here from Atka, right around Atka Island there, and up here over the northern Bering Sea with a Pribilof, St. Lawrence Island, looking marginal. And for Thursday morning, IFR, Arctic coast, North Slope, right into the Brooks Range now. And marginal VFR here for the west coast, Yukon Delta, portions of the Kuskokwim Delta, patch of IFR still over the northern Bering Sea, and then this zone here with the system pushing eastward into the western Bering, trailing back across the Aleutians. Marginal VFR south and east of the Alaska Range, Copper River Basin, some VFR though for the Susitna Valley, Cook Inlet areas, and Gulf of Alaska mostly marginal VFR. For Kodiak Island, marginal for Fognak Island and the Barrens, and a band of IFR right off the southeast coast. For the afternoon, that dissipates, but we've got IFR now for the northern Panhandle and over toward the eastern border with marginal VFR elsewhere. VFR increasing over the Gulf of Alaska back to Kodiak Island. VFR for the Susitna Valley, Cook Inlet, all the way down to the Barrens and northeast Bristol Bay. Marginal VFR, though, for the southeast interior. VFR up here in the central interior with some IFR for the eastern Arctic coast. Excuse me. And then a weakening front pushing IFR into the northern Bering Sea, trailing back in toward the western Aleutians. And for passes, Anaktuvik and Adigan. Marginal VFR for the Brooks Range. The Alaska Range looking pretty marginal as well, with Lake Clark and Merrill and Rainy all forecast to be marginal most of the day. Same forecast for Windy, marginal VFR. Isabel, marginal. Mintasta, VFR with possible marginal VFR in the southern entrance. And for Tanita, marginal VFR. And then for the Portage Pass area, looking IFR there. And for the Chilkoot and White passes, VFR for one more day. And then for the freezing levels here, roughly about 5,000 to 6,000 feet here over interior Alaska, closer to 4,000 feet out over the northern Bering Sea to the Arctic coast, and right around 6,000 to 8,000 feet over the southeast coast. Got some warmer air here with 10,000 feet up over at Kodiak Island and back out over the west central Aleutians. Icing, considerable moderate rime icing, Kodiak Island tomorrow up into the southwest coastal areas, mostly Togiak toward Dillingham, and lighter amounts pushing up into the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound area, as well as Cook Inlet, and partially into the Kuskokwim Valley there. And then the next batch coming in with a front way out here to the west, only affecting Chimney-Attu. And taking a look at the jet stream at 33,000 feet, we've got northwest flow here as a trough slides southeastward into British Columbia, and that's running up to 105 knots there over the southeast coast. Otherwise, this low bringing 85 knot southerlies into Kodiak Island, and then 90 knots out of the northwest here right across the Alaska Peninsula, and westerlies at 100 knots for the western Aleutians. And then for 9,000 feet, low pressure here pushing into northeast Bristol Bay. Northwest winds behind that at 40 knots across the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula. Westerlies, 50 knots coming into the western Aleutians, southwest Bering Sea with that next front. And not too bad for the Panhandle, pretty light for the Gulf of Alaska, right on up across the interior to the Arctic coast. 3,000 feet here with this low at this elevation, just southwest of Sitkinak. Good southeast winds or east-southeasterlies, 35 to 40 knots here, mostly across the Barren Islands into Kamishak Bay there, diminishing over northern Bristol Bay. Light winds over the interior right up to the Arctic coast, light winds for the southeast coast, and then increasing winds out west with the next front. Turbulence, look for widespread or a considerable moderate turbulence here for the western Aleutians out in that area, as well as the Alaska Peninsula from Unalaska Island up to about Chignik there, and then some moderate turbulence expected here with those strong winds across the Barren Islands and Fognak Island into Kamishak Bay, and probably King Salmon as well.